of X's on the floor today. Good. Good morning, everyone. We're here assembled at the Legislative Assembly Press Theatre on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. Of course, since the pandemic began, here in British Columbia, people have been pulling together. We've all been working hard based on the guidance and direction from public health officers and Dr. Bonnie Henry and her team. And our collective efforts have seen us flatten the curve to the point where we're prepared to take the next steps as we restart our economy. After the May long weekend, which is upon us, we'll be introducing phase 2 of our restart plan and lifting some restrictions in that restart plan to see businesses get back to work, people get back to work, and the province get back to what will be the new normal as we go forward. I want to reiterate, this is not the flick of a switch. This is a gradual increase in activity, and we'll do that in a manner that will keep everyone safe and will also allow us to test and gauge as we go whether these measures are appropriate for the public safety that we all want to ensure is our highest priority. The plan will be gradual, and it will be based on scientific recommendations from Dr. Henry and her team. And today's announcement is going to be a focus on an area that I know a lot of children have been waiting to hear about, and a lot of parents as well. We're ready today to announce a gradual increase in returning students to classrooms. In-class teaching has been absent for the past 2 months, and it's time now, starting on June 1st, for students to have the option to return to school on a part-time basis. This step will pave the way for a cleaner and smoother reintroduction of full-time classes in September. And it's our genuine desire to make sure that no one feels pressured to do this. I understand if parents or children are anxious about going back to classrooms, and I want to assure you that we would not be making these announcements today if we felt there was an undue risk to the health and well-being of the youngsters that are going into our schools, or the adults, the teachers and support staff that we so much depend on to care for our children throughout the day and give them the tools to be full participants in our society as they grow and then graduate from high school. These steps will pave the way, as I said, for a full start back in September. Many people will welcome this announcement today, and I know that there are a number of young people that live in my neighborhood that are desperate to get back to real teachers rather than mom and dad or big sister and big brother. And this adjustment will take time, and the online program has been, I would argue, successful. Minister Fleming can give more details on that in a moment, but our objective here and our top priority is to make sure that schools are safe. Rigorous cleaning procedures are in place, and all schools will be following the guidelines put in place by Dr. Henry and WorkSafe BC. And again, I want to just reiterate that this transition is voluntary, but I believe that it's going to be positive, net positive for the kids of British Columbia. It's going to be positive for teachers, positive for support staff as well. This plan is based on science and safety standards, and I'll let Mr. Fleming step to the podium and give you some of the details on the restart, which begins on June 1st.
Good morning, and thank you, Premier Horgan, for the introduction and for being here today. I'm grateful to be speaking to everyone here on the territory of the Lekwungen, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. The last 2 months have been a challenge for all of us. We've worked together as a province to flatten the curve. We understand how difficult this pandemic has been and continues to be on families right across British Columbia. For many parents and guardians, this has meant trying to juggle work obligations while taking care of kids at home. While precautions like physical distancing and remote learning have been necessary to keep everyone safe, it hasn't been easy. A lot of children are really missing classroom time with their teachers and classmates. School's a place where kids learn how to connect with others. It's a place where they grow as people. And not having those places learn and grow has been especially hard for children who need extra support, or for kids who find that school is their safe haven in their lives. Dr. Henry's steady leadership, along with the cooperation of everyone in British Columbia, has brought us to this point here today, to a place where we can take gradual steps and allow more students back to class in the safest way possible. As the Premier has said, this won't be back to the way that school life was before the pandemic. There will be strict health and safety standards in place. schools will look significantly different than before the pandemic. Our government has taken a cautious, measured approach. Students, educators, and staff should feel confident knowing we're taking every precaution to put their health and safety first. I'd also like to emphasize, as the Premier has, this return to class for students is optional and entirely voluntary. It is the parents' choice to send their children to school now that we are resuming partial in-class instruction. We have looked at the Ministry of Education in collaboration with all of our K-12 stakeholders at what other jurisdictions have done around the world, what is working, how they have managed the return of students to in-class learning. We have relied on the science and medical advice of the Provincial Health Officer to guide our return to classes in a gradual and measured way with strict health and safety measures in place. From the start of this pandemic, we've worked closely with the 60 public school districts, with independent schools, First Nations, teachers, support staff, school leaders, parents, all of BC's education partners, to make sure that whether you live in Surrey or Haida Gwaii or in Kamloops or Smithers, the same strict health and safety standards apply province-wide, and they must be followed by everybody. We have today in BC already more than 5,000 students who have safely returned to school and are being accommodated there each and every day. These are the children of essential service workers and those who need extra support. As we get ready to take this next step, we now have new public health guidelines from the Provincial Health Officer and the BC Centre for Disease Control. These are for schools to operate safely under, that will help ensure the safety of our students and education professionals. All boards of education and independent schools will be required to implement these measures and provide their operating plans to the Ministry of Education. To do things safely, we will need to limit the number of students in schools so we can manage physical distance and physical contact between students. We'll do this by having most students attend school part-time and by staggering lunch breaks, recess, drop-offs, and pickups. Students from kindergarten to grade 5 will be in school half-time. This could be 2 or 3 days a week, but it means that elementary schools will be at 50% or less of their normal capacity on school days. For grades 6 to 12, 20% of students will be in a school at any one time, and no more. So for each middle and secondary student, that is likely 1 day per week for the month, in the month of June. Each Board of Education and independent school are preparing detailed schedules and transportation plans to welcome students back. And for children of essential service workers, those who need extra support, they will continue to have access to school full-time. We will continue to make those accommodations available so we can keep our front lines and essential supply chains working and support those families who are working on behalf of British Columbians. Districts will be reviewing their available spaces in schools. They will adjust things like hallway flows. They will look at reducing the number and sizes of groups of kids congregating in common areas. There will be regular, rigorous cleaning schedule for high contact surfaces, things like doorknobs, washrooms, keyboards, and desks, at least twice a day, while school buildings will have a deep cleaning daily. Students, educators, and staff will be required to clean their hands upon entering school property. There'll be more hand sanitizing and cleaning stations available. And staff and students and parents must do a self-assessment daily for symptoms of COVID-19, influenza, the common cold. Any student or staff member with any symptoms, however mild, must stay home, as that is the case in any workplace now right across British Columbia. Measures to ensure safe bus transportation will need to be implemented. Things like 1 student per seat, unless children are from the same household, as well as plexiglass barriers to separate the bus driver. It's going to be very strict, and it needs to be. We also need to remember that a lot of young people returning to school will have experienced stress and anxiety in their lives as a result of this pandemic. And it's important kids receive this type of support from their schools as well. I know teachers and support staff are there to support students' mental health and well-being, and their professional dedication to our kids is at the heart of our school system. As an additional mental wellness resource, we recently partnered with the WE organization to ensure students in grades K to 12 have access to a free virtual WE Wellbeing program in both English and French. We've also expanded our ERASE program, Expect, Respect, and a Safe Education, at erase.gov.bc.ca with more mental health support for students and trauma-informed practices for teachers. ERASE has an online student safety reporting tool, so if any student is worried about something they can anonymously let an adult know who can lend support. I also want to announce and let parents know today that remote learning continues and to be available for all students in British Columbia. Families that want to can continue having their children learn at home. And for those families who choose to return to school on a part-time basis on June 1st, remote learning continues for them when they are not in the classroom. Our Keep Learning website has been a great resource for parents and kids to learn remotely. Since the launch of this site at the end of March, hundreds of thousands of people are using this site. It is updated regularly with new device-free activities for kids of any age, and that's how we support families. It is one of the many resources that are available out there and will continue to be updated regularly. It's also a central place for learning links to other sites internationally, as well as the BC curriculum on subject matters that are for any school, any kid of any age. It also additionally includes mental health and wellness resources for kids to get help when they need it. That site, as I mentioned, will be available and updated continuously. As we get ready to take the next steps, school leaders will be contacting families to make arrangements for students to come back to class part-time on June 1st. Parents can expect to hear at a local level from school-based instruction details before May 22nd. If you don't, we recommend that you contact your principal after May 22nd if you haven't heard. We'll be asking parents to follow the schedule provided for your child so we can ensure everyone has a safe and orderly start. All of the work we're doing today will pave the way for a return to full-time classes planned for September, provided it is safe to do so. I am incredibly grateful that here in BC we have an exceptional team of dedicated professionals supporting BC students during these very challenging times. And I'd like to thank everyone for your continued flexibility and patience as we work through this next step. The BC way has been the collaborative way, and I'm so proud that the Ministry of Education, the 60 school districts, independent schools, have worked with unions in education, have worked with administrators, the BC School Trustees Association, the Principals and Vice Principals Association, the BC Confederation of Parent Advisory Councils. All of these essential partners have given valuable input into the SAFE plan that we have announced and that we are going to put in place, moving to stage 3 on June 1st. And with that, I would like to now introduce our Provincial Health Officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry. It's under her direction and guidance that we've been able to get to this point, and all British Columbians are fortunate for her leadership.
Thank you very much, and good morning. As Minister Fleming has said, COVID-19 has been a challenge, a huge challenge for all of us. And it's been felt by everybody, and perhaps no more so than by our children around the province. Suspending in-class learning was a necessary pause in March, and it is something that has meant for many weeks now, school has been very different for many families and all of our children. But learning, whether in the classroom, at home, or outside, has not stopped. And I think that's a very positive thing that we've seen. Parents and teachers have been doing their very best to support our children and provide ongoing learning opportunities. I know for many students, staff, and educators, being in the classroom is where they want to be. As we shift into phase 2 of the BC Restart Plan, getting back to school and reopening our childcare centres to everyone is at the top of the list. Ensuring that it is done safely, however, is my priority. Everyone in our education system, as well as everyone who needs childcare, so they too can return to work, needs to have confidence that returning to classrooms will be done with safety top of mind. I have spoken extensively about the importance of keeping a safe physical distance, washing our hands regularly, not touching our face, increased and frequent cleaning and disinfecting, and very incredibly importantly, staying home if we're sick at all. And that is going to be incredibly important for all of us as we move into this next phase. So whether you think it's allergies, a mild cold, the sniffles, that's the time you need to stay home, stay away from school, stay away from work, and stay away from others. The health and safety measures and the guidelines for childcare and for schools announced today include all of these important principles. The new approach and the measures we have in place are not forever, but they are for the foreseeable future and certainly for the month of June. And this is how we are going to build our confidence that we can do this together. They will allow teachers, teaching assistants, early childhood educators, and children to begin to confidently return back to the classroom. However, we will be monitoring this situation in schools and daycares very closely. If someone does become ill, we have a comprehensive plan to support them and to support the entire school community. This is something that all of us in public health take very seriously. I want you to know a thoughtful and measured approach is being taken. This is about moving forward in a way that we can all feel good about. Some parents may choose to have their kids return on June 1st. Others will wait until September, and that is absolutely fine. You have to do what's right for you and your situation and make those decisions for your family. And I do want to also say, for the 2020 grads, the young people who are in grade 12, I mean, this is such an important transition year in your life. And I know, I've said this before, you are truly unique. Graduating in the middle of a global pandemic is something that has not been seen for over 100 years. But the reopening of your schools in June is an opportunity to see your friends and your teachers again at a safe distance. It's an opportunity to say hello and potentially to say goodbye as you prepare to go into the next very important and exciting stage of your life. So I encourage you to take advantage of that and to know that it's done in a way that's safe. So teachers, teaching assistants, early childhood educators, staff, childcare providers, young people in daycare, and students from kindergarten to grade 12, please know that we are standing together with you, supporting you to keep everybody safe. We will get through this by all of us doing our part, and of course, we will do this by being kind and being calm and staying safe. I now want to introduce Minister Chen, the Minister of State for Childcare.
Thank you very much, Dr. Henry. And we all know as a parent, whether if you're parents from the K-12 system or your parents looking for childcare for under 5 or for school-age care, every day, and as a mother myself, we make decisions that we believe is the best for our children. And we'll have to continue to make those decisions as we recover from this pandemic. And there's going to be a lot of decisions involved trying to do our best to decide what's right for our families. And childcare has really been an important part of that. As parents are gradually returned to work, we want to make sure that childcare services are available so parents can have the peace of mind when they're at work, knowing that their children are being looked after and cared for in a safe and healthy environment. And during this pandemic, there have been more than 2,600 childcare centers that have remained open and serving many essential services workers and their families, so those essential services workers can continue to do their very important work supporting our community at this very difficult time. And May is Childcare Month, so I want to take this opportunity to thank all the early childhood educators and providers for stepping up, serving those families, and serving our community. And as we continue to move forward towards a recovery, many people will return to work and will need those very important childcare services. So we have been, and we've been very thankful to have the opportunity to work with Public Health and Dr. Henry's team to see how we can safely support those services. And today, again, thanks to Public Health, we are releasing new guidelines, updated guidelines to ensure childcare can continue as they have been to operate safely. And just like schools, childcare centers will need to take additional precautions to maintain health and safety, which could include wash your hands as frequently as possible, make sure we break up activities between children when they're indoor, and also encouraging more outdoor activities, especially when the summertime comes. We can do outdoor activities in the playground for the childcare centers, or even doing snack times at the outdoor playground. But I also want to emphasize this is very important that childcare is not mandated to reopen. It is really up to childcare providers to reopen or to return to their more regular capacity, depending on what is the best for their operation, and again, following the health and safety guidelines of our public health. And what our government is doing is to provide support, especially through our temporary emergency funding, to ensure that we can support licensed centers to stay open, to cover for up to 75% of their operating cost. And we also want to support centers who are temporarily closed to help to pay for the fixed costs for their centers so they can come back and reopen when families need the services in the spot, and at the same time making sure families who are not using the spots don't have to pay for a fee for those spots that they're holding. And centers that are receiving temporary emergency funding will continue to prioritize spaces for frontline workers, parents who are working on the front lines of this COVID-19 response. And if it works for the center, additional spaces can then be offered to their regular families as the center and early childhood educators decides to return to a more capacity. And until today, our government has invested more than $90 million in those emergency fundings to providers, to maintain their centers, to support their early childhood educators and parents. And this funding will continues to be available and will be assessed on an ongoing basis as we gradually to see schools and business reopen in our province. And our goal, again, is to provide the support needed now as we begin to recover from this pandemic. And we've really achieved a lot during the past 3 years through our Child Care PC plan, and we want to make sure the support is available so when we can recover and we can continue our plan to build an inclusive, quality, and affordable early learning care and system for all families in BC. We know this has been a really stressful time for both parents, early childhood educators, and providers, and we really thank you for your patience during this time. And to borrow a quote from Dr. Henry, let's continue to be kind for each other as we proceed and go to the new normal. Thank you very much.